Hey there, and welcome back to Nourished. I'm your host, Colleen McCarthy, and in studio today, I have the lovely Anna Conversano.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here.
I am
This
too.
is going to be a pretty amazing conversation. Just to let you guys know, Anna is a certified well-being coach and a yoga therapist. She specializes in intuitive healing modalities such as embodiment practices. She's also a writer, a Reiki practitioner, and a clairvoyant. So we've actually worked together for a little bit of time. And so I wanted to have you on to talk about your journey. And this is a pretty sensitive topic for some people, but we're going to talk about eating disorders today. Because I think it is a very important topic to address. Because in my experience and in yours, I know with the work that you do, I feel like all of us have some sort of different relationship with food. Mm-hmm. It changes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's indifferent, sometimes it takes over our whole entire body and the way that we move in the world. So yeah, I think we're just going to dive on in.
Let's do it.
So just paint me a picture about what it looked like. And I'm going to reference to like before we started working together, but you can take it back as far as you want with your journey with your body and with food. Let's just go in there.
Okay. I think that I first started to have abnormal behaviors around food. Oh gosh, I think forever.
But
I started to have compulsive tendencies in middle school.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that they were compulsive tendencies. And I started this like push-pull control relationship around weighing myself often like age 12 and being like, okay, I have to lose 1 pound and I like can't eat any chocolate because chocolate was like my favorite food at the time.
Food rules.
Yeah, food rules. And then, but also on the flip hand, after dinner, like the chocolate would be there and I would eat like 5 pieces.
Yeah.
So it was like the pendulum was swinging wide really young. But I didn't feel like there was like an active realization that I was in eating disorder until around college.
Okay.
I just had a big breakup of like a 6-year relationship. I was not in the healthiest place in relationship with my parents. Mm-hmm. I was very anxiety ridden, and I remember distinctively there was a night and I was laying awake in my bed. And it was like this force came through me. It was like a voice that wasn't mine. And it was like, this is what you're going to do. And this will fix this. And if you can eat whatever you want as long as you throw it up.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from there, I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to have control. This is what is going to... I don't even know if I wanted to feel safe. I wanted to be more controlling than who I felt was controlling over me.
I think that's a big one because I know for me, a lot of my clients know this, but I don't know if listeners probably don't know this yet, but I had an eating disorder, raging. At 18, I too didn't realize what it was until almost after the fact.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I almost rationalized what I was doing as like, it makes me feel better and it's just another way of like being clean, you know? I'm getting all of this negativity out of my body, and I think as I look back on it, well, I swung between bulimia and anorexia.
Which is pretty common.
I think what I realized, not while I was in it, but looking back on it, is how energetically I was trying to also manage my hypersensitivities.
Yes.
And in a weird way, it worked.
Yeah. I feel it was, and I feel the same way looking back.
Yeah.
With what I was going through and how sensitive I am and how you are. And most of my clients that I work with are super sensitive.
Yeah.
And I find that this is how, and this is not true for everybody. And this is not true for all eating disorders. Like some are very different causes and triggers, but I feel that sensitive individuals, this is a way of our body, one, our mind trying to get our attention, and two, the body starts to feel off. And the only way that we can feel normal is to restrict the energy that's coming in.
Or purge it and
get it out. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a maladaptive, like, regulation for me.
Yeah. That
was, instead of having me be in tune and in touch and, like, a part of my sacred body, I was completely detached, and anything that infiltrated me that didn't feel good just happened to be, like, through the channel of food.
Right.
I would use it to control, to stay away from what I, like, felt I couldn't stay in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did that affect, like, for you, that relationship to your body? Like, I know you just said that you felt completely disconnected. So what did it feel like to reconnect? What was that process for you?
That was Anna learning how to feel emotions, and that the spectrum is very wide for me in the way that I feel, and how to lean into every single aspect of what it feels like to feel anger or sadness or frustration. And for so long, and a lot of the work that I do is, like, overriding the false belief that these emotions are bad or wrong.
Yeah.
Or that if I'm spiritual, then I'm not supposed to feel angry. And that wasn't conscious, like, when I was in the depths of the eating disorder, but even now I still catch myself, if I feel shame around something, why?
Yeah.
Like, that's not mine, and I have every right to feel angry. Like, everyone has every right to feel every emotion. So I guess the short answer to your question is, I had to come home to who I am in every single layer, every single aspect of myself.
And it's very layered.
Very layered.
I know for me it was the same thing. Very layered, and each, it's almost like it was like each year or each, you can feel the phases when you're like, okay, I'm moving into this phase of this healing process of coming home to myself. I want to talk about also, like, food sensitivities and how that affects energetics and your eating disorder tendencies, as well as putting the blame on yourself, going, what did I do wrong?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's so multi-layered, and there's such a correlation, though, between so I guess for me in high school there was a lot of trauma that happened. That's also when my gluten sensitivity started and my lactose intolerance. And I was the pickiest eater growing up. Ironically, butter noodles was, like, my safe food. Macaroni and cheese. And all of a sudden, my body is having this visceral reaction to these foods.
These comfort foods.
Comfort foods. The way that my gut healing happened was almost like I had to heal physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally. And, like, there's so much science around, like, your gut health and your mental health and that correlation. So it wasn't an accident.
No, it never is.
Yeah.
It's, with, like, solar plexus and that being in the space of our guts, the way that we view ourselves, the way that we move in the world, the way that we, how worthy we feel of certain things. Like, if that's not balanced or in the best space or healthy, this isn't going to be either, so, like, the gut and brain health, they're totally connected. And if one is not healthy, the other one is gonna try and show you I'm not healthy either. And we often take it as there's something, like, wrong with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes physically there is.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times it's just to get your attention.
Yeah. It is. 100%. And so much of it for me, I've realized, is like the inability not only to digest food, but to digest energy, to digest emotions, to digest my life. Everything in my life. And for so long I felt, I don't like this word, but I think I really did feel very victimized and overwhelmed most of the time. And everything felt like too much, and then I couldn't handle it. And I mean, so many conversations in therapy was for me around things feeling too much and that I can't. And so I felt very out of control and needing control at the same time. And that's where like the
controlling what came in, because really, like, it was kind of the same for me. I didn't know I had celiac disease, but the only thing that I could control to make me feel good was not to eat. So that was seemingly a simple answer until other things started happening. But it's also the same, you know, like with feeling too much. Like I see it with my students. Just last night, actually, as I'm preparing. Yeah. As I'm preparing for this episode, you know, like talking to you and doing all these things. One of my students, she regularly does this. She'll come, she's fine in pre-point. There's only 3 people in pre-point, right? But then when we get into her ballet class, there's about 11. And it's almost like every week she comes to me and she's like, my stomach hurts. I got to sit down. That's anxiety. I can recognize that from, you know, small children. They're not going to be able to tell you, I have anxiety right now and I don't want to eat, or I don't want to participate in this.
I can't.
And now I see it in a different light, you know, rather than like when I was growing up, it was just like, get it together. Yeah. You know, like, you're fine. You're fine. You know, like that was like a thing. You're fine. I mean, even when I was diagnosed with celiac disease, like having to regulate my food, that was it triggered my eating disorder a little bit, because it was like, okay for me to push and pull with different foods. To do your
tendencies. Right. Yeah. And I think that for a while it was really challenging for me to navigate what was healthy behavior around listening to what my body needed, which actually is very simple, basic food. And having that not tip over into like restrictive behavior or compulsive behavior, or I'm only eating these. But to be honest, there was some truth to that.
Yes.
And the way I eat now isn't that different than the way I ate then. It's just healthier and it's more, and there's not the like binge restrict.
Yeah. There's not that push.
It.
Yeah.
But like it was, in a way, in my best ability at the time, my whatever part of my mind trying to help.
Yeah. It tries to step in and be logical around it. And like you said, it is very, sometimes when you strip it down to listen to your body, I feel like in a way you were connected the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just,
I don't think I knew I was connected though. And that was like,
that's a part of it too. I realize,
but that's what you helped me with so much, is like you made me feel confident in the fact that I was actually connected.
Yeah.
The word validated. You validated me. And that was huge for my healing, because I think in a way I knew, but I couldn't give myself that validation.
Yeah. And it happens to me too. Yeah. With, you know, like, is this right? Am I actually listening to my body, or am I making this up? You know, I feel like with a lot of people that are sensitive and connected, we feel like we're making stuff up. Yeah. Even when it comes to around food, we have all these like rules, these food rules. I should be eating this, I should be eating that, based on what you see on social media, or based on, you know, like what's in the magazines. You know, it's just like, that is too much. And we're taking in too much information, so our brains literally can't, what's the word I'm looking for? We can't differentiate between like what this body is telling us, what our intuition is asking us and telling us to eat, versus what's on the paper.
What's right.
Because our brain likes to go from here to a paper. Like, if it's in on the paper, then it must be right. But if it's something that's not written down, that's like already wisdom in our body, our brain's like, yeah, no.
Yeah. I couldn't just simply want these things.
Right.
It
can't be that simple.
Yeah, it has to be more complicated.
Right. So your journey with like the relationship to your body and relationship to nourishment, the physical aspect didn't change that much. It was more mentally, emotional, and spiritually you had to step more into yourself.
It was coming home to my body and using my body as my source of information for my intuition and wisdom. And I don't think that intuition is, at least for me, always up here. Like, I can hear things, but I also sense things very, very deeply. And I think a lot of us do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of us are more sensitive than we realize.
Especially nowadays.
And I think when we come to realize it, it can be a little bit scary and overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because there's that deep sense of trust in self, like down here self, that we have to own. And I think it's easier to stay up here in like the control tower mind, because down here you feel everything.
Yeah.
And now
and this can sometimes talk you out of this.
Oh, totally. 100%. But when you can befriend this and like this is your source of wisdom and information and of this just knowingness, then there's nothing more profound or powerful, and you're no longer scared of your own power, because you realize like it's not a manipulative power. No. It's an enlightening power.
Right. And it pushes you forward, and you know it's there for us instead of working against us. You know what I mean? So through all of this, your intuitive abilities started to build and build and build. Because I remember your grandfather being present a lot.
He's still there all the time.
Yeah.
Every time I see a Marine sticker on the back of a car, he's like,
hey. But I remember this whole part of your journey, like this was just complete validation of like everything coming back in. So, and I know that sometimes, like even for me, even still, sometimes we can be scared of that visceral feeling. Even like after you've eaten something, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I don't like the way this feels. And that, you know, like with your binging and like purging, like going back and forth, that could also be like just the energy that you were taking in from the food was like a visceral feeling of like, okay, this isn't sitting well. It needs to come out. I'm not validating that that is something that is healthy, because it's not. Recognizing that and sitting with it and holding it in is better. And then going, you know, into your mind and asking yourself why, but also massively giving yourself huge amounts of love during this process, because it's very hard.
Yeah.
And I advise getting help and getting somebody to help you through this process, because you really can't do it by yourself.
You can't do it alone. And you shouldn't have to. No one should have to be like, oh, I'm strong, I can handle this alone. That's not being strong, that's being stubborn. And I think one of the most profound things I realized in my healing journey is like, yes, it was food that maybe I wanted to come out, but going one layer deeper, I think there was always not always, but there was often an initial feeling of overwhelm. Yeah. And I couldn't come down, I couldn't get back into my body. The energy around me maybe was toxic, or I didn't know how to self-regulate. Yeah. So from that energy, there came a sense of overeating because I wanted to, it was self-soothing. Yeah, yeah. And then to get all of the energy out of me, or what I felt was toxic out of me, that just felt like the next step. Yeah. You know? And when I learned how to stay and like self-regulate through actually feeling through things instead of trying to get rid of things, then, you know, that is what was the most healing thing to me. And I think also when I would work with you, every conversation we had, you were forceful in the fact of adding compassion and self-love and like giving myself a break.
Yeah.
And like that was so helpful to me, because I feel like often we feel like we're doing something wrong or something's wrong with us, or why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I'm just so effed up.
Yeah.
And that can just perpetuate the shame, I think.
Yeah. And that leads you into that darker,
Toxic
deeper
cycle.
place of either not eating or taking it in and letting it go. So, I mean, I think that that's a powerful thing that you just shared is, it's giving yourself that compassion and allowing somebody to give you that too.
And receiving it.
And receiving. Because I know for me, a lot of times I was just like, I don't want it. I can do this. I'm strong.
Oh, yeah.
All the things.
Most stubborn.
But in reality, you deserve help. And you, I think it's needed to have a partner in this process. Whether it's 6 months, whether it's a month, whatever it may be, help is good. And it's never really, as I've learned, it's always kind of in you. Those tendencies are always there. It's a part of who you are. It's just recognizing them and then going, okay, I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to choose myself. I'm going to choose to nourish myself and know that like blueberries are not bad. Yeah. I mean, we were just having this conversation before we got on camera. Like organic Cheetos are not bad.
Right.
It's not like I eat them all the time, but if I want them, I'm going to eat them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm human. We're all human. And eating clean and eating, I feel like sometimes that kind of can put you in that space again. It's like, oh, I have to eat so clean. But it's like, no, I can choose what I want to eat when I want to eat, whatever I feel like. And usually when you're in that space, you're not going to crave junk all the time, right?
Right. But that's true food freedom. Yeah. That's true food freedom is not pre-deciding what you're allowed or not allowed to eat, but it's simply eating it and stopping when you feel like it.
Yeah.
And
it's a practice.
It's a practice, and it's not something that you need to try and perfect, right? Because when you try and perfect it, you're trying to control the circumstance of the situation. I was in that part of my healing for a long time, around navigating like eating what I wanted and also knowing how and when to stop. And that was very challenging for me, because to be honest, and I feel a lot of people who have unhealthy, for lack of a better word, relationship with food actually really love food. Yeah. Like I love food. And food brings me so much joy. And it's meant to be that way. It's meant to be enjoyed, like I think that's a lot of people are like, oh, what am I going to eat for lunch today? It's just such a chore. And it's like, you're allowed to get excited about it. You're allowed to get excited about what you eat. It's a thing. I have conversations with myself like, well, Anna, what are you going to eat? Yeah. And it's okay to do that. A lot of people are like, well, food is, joyous and, every, gathering people have, it's all about food. And that can be pretty intimidating at first when you're first going through this. But then you're like, I get to choose whether or not I want to eat this or not. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. And I get to enjoy it if I want to. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about, I love bar taco. And I eat it every now and then. Even though corn doesn't do so hot with my body, I love it. And I'm going to eat it. And like you said, that's food freedom. Mm-hmm. So I have one more question for you. Okay. So this being about nourishment in any way, shape, or form for yourself, what most nourishes you and feeds your spirit these days? Meditation and my own spiritual practice. And I say meditation as a form of embodiment. Mm-hmm. And when I drop in with myself every morning and investigate what's going on inside, I think meditation, and this is not about meditation, but it's not about stopping your thoughts and focusing on your breath, but it's about investigating like your rich inner world and for me to be able to sit with that and explore it and love it and be curious about it is like the most beautiful, amazing thing possible, because I've come from such the opposite where I wanted to live so far away from my body. And now the most beautiful thing is for me to be embodied and let that be a foundation for how I move through my day and have interactions with others. And that's how I stay nourished, you know, like that's level 1 for me. Like that's non-negotiable. That has opened up the doors for my spiritual practices and my spiritual connections to all things. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. That's lovely. So, I mean, I understand. I get it.
Yeah.
This has been so nice to have this conversation with you.
So important.
You can find Anna on the social medias. At your Instagram is Anna Sophie Conversano. And her website is symbioticwellness.com. Did I say that right?
You did.
So you can find Anna on those 2 social media points. We'll put them in the notes below. And you work virtually, don't you?
I do work virtually.
So if you want to work with her, check her out. I think you're based in LA, but she works like I do, virtually. And if you want to find more on me, you can find me at Instagram at ColleenMCC_. And my website is colleen-mccarthy.com. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Nourished, where we are all about feeding the spirit.